All right, and welcome to the market update of February 2025. Yes, I am wearing a posture corrector because I sit in a chair all day and my back is getting all jacked up. But we're diving into the nitty-gritty of what the housing market is doing currently. Now, we're coming off an election just a few months ago, which caused a lot of mayhem. Financial markets are kind of going a little wonky. People are hoping interest rates come down. So what is going on in the market February 2025? And what indicators do we see for the rest of the year to make sure you make the best decision possible when you're choosing to buy or sell real estate? Now, I just realized there's a closet door open here. That's very distracting. But let's dive into the nitty-gritty. Check this out. All right, so first article from Redfin: housing supply is piling up as home sellers enter the market, but buyers stay on sidelines. This has been the trend over the last 12 to 18 months, where what we call a soft market is getting softer. The reason for this is kind of the obvious: affordability. Affordability has been the problem for the last 3 years, right? Interest rates spiked. They go from 3 to 7 in a matter of months, and it halted the housing market. Over time, the 6 to 7% interest rate became the norm. And so buyers started to trickle in, but not nearly enough to absorb the inventory that we currently have. And so we're seeing a lot of housing supply hit the market and not enough buyers to absorb it, which is creating a soft market. And so if we look at this metric right here, this is called the Cromford Market Index. Now, a little complicated, but basically it's just a giant algorithm with a lot of information thrown into one metric to tell us, hey, are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? And this is telling us we're in a buyer's market. Anything under 90 is a buyer's market. Over 110 is a seller's market. Now, obviously, there's some nuance, and this is pretty macro, not micro, but it's a good indicator to tell us, hey, which way are we trending? A couple weeks ago, we were at 90. We're trending in a buyer's market direction, which is kind of the opposite of what a lot of people thought was going to happen for February. We knew the election was going to stop the housing market. We knew it was going to slow it down. So you have the combination of one, buyer exhaustion and affordability being a real thing. Then you add the election to it, and people were just waiting for the election to see what was going to happen. And the idea was after the election, we were going to see a small wave of home buyers that were holding off come and hit the market. And that has not happened yet. And it could just be because of interest rates. Who knows what's happening, but not a lot of buyers are hitting the market right now to absorb the inventory, which is creating more inventory, which allows buyers to get better deals for those who are shopping right now, which is a whole different tangent that I'll try to stay away from because I could talk about why it's important to buy as soon as possible, but that's for a different time. All right. So to support this, housing supply is piling up as home sellers enter the market, but buyers stay on sidelines. Now, if we were to look at this graph right here, this is new listings. Okay. So if we look at this right here, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. The 2025, you can see that there's 10,500 new listings that hit. That is significantly more than the previous years. Significantly more. 8,600, 7,500, 8,700, 10,500. That was January. We had this huge wave of new listings hit the market in January in the Metro Phoenix area, which was strange to say the least. Now, a lot of home sellers, any good realtor will advise their seller, if they're looking to sell in December, to try to push it off until January if possible. Christmas time, you don't want to try to sell your home at Christmas time. You'll absorb days on market that are pointless, and you just don't want to do that, so you want to push it off into January, February, something along those lines. Now, there is a seasonal boom traditionally where spring kind of takes off, and maybe that will happen this year. Spring's typically a very busy time for the housing market. Temperatures get a little bit warmer. People are ready to make a move. Holidays are over. School years are ending, and they're looking to make that move. And so maybe in the next couple of months, we'll see an uptick on what the buyers are doing. But the inventory that hit the market, I don't want to say it's bad because it's great for buyers. It's really good for buyers. It's tough for sellers depending on where you're at. But we don't want to see another month with 10,500 listings hit the market. That could cause some really awkward times in the housing market come summer. So we'll see what happens this month. We're halfway through and we're trending at somewhere around 10,000 listings. We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. So when this happens, we start seeing something called an uptick in buyer concessions. Now let's see what the data shows us. I have not looked at this one yet. Buyer concessions were down. Interesting. Okay, so what this graph tells us right here is the amount of transactions that received a seller credit, that received money from the seller, a concession. And a concession is just money that the seller is giving the buyer that the buyer can spend inside of that transaction however they want to cover closing fees, realtor fees, buy the interest rate down, all kinds of different things. It has to be applied in that transaction, though. It cannot be cash in the buyer's pocket. So 45%, which is the lowest it's been in a while since May of last year, with a median concession amount of $10,000. So 46% of transactions are getting a seller credit attached to it. Now, I would say 95% of my clients are getting a home that's not market rate. We're getting concessions from the seller and we're applying those concessions to a rate buy down and to help cover some closing costs and various things. But they're getting a rate buy down the majority of the time. And so this is where it's deceiving, because people will say, oh, well, I can't afford the payment at 7%. Like, I totally get it. Like, I understand that. Very empathetic. Like, some of these mortgage payments are wild. But we can get money from the seller to say, hey, buy my rate down. And then we go and we buy it down and it becomes more affordable and you save $500 compared to what you thought based on market rate. So there's things that we can do. Now, it's interesting this went down when inventory goes up. So if we were to look at, I want to look at price changes. Look at that. That's super interesting. This little spike in early February. So when we see a lot of price changes, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a correction of where you need to be as a product. And a good analogy of all of that is you skate to where the puck is going, not to where the puck is, right? If you were to skate to where the puck is, you'll have missed it because it's sliding on the ice. Same thing with pricing a house. You want to price the house to where the market is going to be, not to where the market is. So this is why it's important that we look at all the data so we can understand where is the market headed, so then we can price your home correctly. And I'm a big believer that the price of your house is your best marketing strategy. And there's a lot to that, but we want to make sure we price it right so we sell it quick, because days on market is like acid to your listing. Every single second your home sits on the market, it's like pulling cash out of your pocket. So you want to try to sell it as quick as possible. So you want to price it right. And this is why it's important we look at this stuff. And so we start seeing these price cuts. There's a big jump. You can see this big old spike here in price cuts in that first week of February, which is super interesting. But we also saw that giant influx of inventory come January. And so there might be some correction in prices that needed to be had. And maybe that's just a spike, is because this is based on how many listings, the total number of units doing the adjustment. And since we saw that influx of units, that's probably why we saw that spike. But to kind of sum all this up, I mean, we can look at this just real quick. I was looking at jumbo rates. We don't really need to look at jumbos, but this is something that we all pay very, very close attention to, is obviously the rate, where it's at, the treasury, 10-year yield. And every single time that we've seen this dip, there's been like 2 or 3 times, I think it's 3 times in the last 3 years, where we see this dip into the low 6s and we see a spike in buyer demand. And so we kind of, like, I personally want to see this. I want to see some hope. That's really what we're looking for, is just hope in the market. We just need some confidence. Are we moving in the right direction? Now, I have no idea what this year is going to hold. My opinion is rates are going to stay the same for quite some time, but we don't know. And there's been so many people wrong over the last 3 years that have been very, very confident on what rates are going to do, and they just haven't done it. And so I got out of the guessing game of what rates are going to do, and I just try to find solutions with where we're currently at. And so a lot of my clients, new construction, great way to find something more affordable. A lot of great deals going on. You just have to know who to call. So let me know if you're looking to purchase or something along those lines, because spec homes, new construction homes, great way to go. Anyways, to sum it all up, the market is soft, meaning it's a buyer's market. Now, if we jump back over here to kind of make my last point, if you were to look at this graph right here. So this is the Comfort Market Index, which is that big old meter that we were looking at earlier, just in a different format. 148, 131, 128, 125, 124, 118. So these first 7 cities are technically in a seller's market, but they're getting hit pretty hard right now. Everything else, either balanced or seller's market. So if you're a seller looking to sell, your home can still sell quickly, like for sure. You just have to have the right product, priced right, with the right condition and the right location. If you don't have all those combined working for you, then yes, you will sit on the market longer. If you're a buyer who can afford the higher rate, now is a great time to purchase. And I know that sounds crazy. A lot of people are like, hey, I need to wait for rates to drop. I get it. Once you wait for rates to drop, you're going to be competing with the wave of buyers coming in to buy, which means you're going to have way less leverage, which means you're not going to be able to get concessions, which means you're going to have to go over list price or at list price. Or right now we can beat them up a little bit. We can beat up sellers depending on the product, but you have a higher chance of getting a much better deal buying now, and you will save yourself literally tens of thousands of dollars buying before rates drop. Then obviously when rates drop, you can refi. But the current state of the market is very similar to where it has been in the last 24 months. It's very, very similar. And I am keeping a very watchful eye on what's happening out there because there's a lot of people interested in what's going to happen this year with the housing market. I'm going to leave it at that. But obviously, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm here to help. If you want me to dive into your neighborhood or your city or your zip code, something more specific, I'm here to help, okay? I'm here to help. That's all I got. Appreciate you guys. If you listen to this entire thing, text me the word pizza so I know. Okay, see you guys.